Well, I think the clearest cut trend is the increasing supply that we're seeing from a range of different actors. This is true of existing commercial operators looking to expand their fleets, trying to reach out to more clients by extending the coverage and the capacity of their satellites. In addition to that, we're seeing more satellites being launched from emerging government programs and developing government programs, which have the potential even to commercialize data, adding to the overall pool of potential commercial data that we may have out there. In addition to that, of course, we're entering into this so-called new space environment with the emergence of large-scale constellations, which add again to this overall supply base, which we expect to see impacting and increasing the competition on the Earth observation commercial data business. In addition to that, of course, we're seeing the market for Earth observation commercial imagery grow. 12% growth over the last year, and today we have a market of about 1.6 billion with applications ranging from natural resources monitoring, infrastructure and engineering, emerging location-based system, market business intelligence applications, but of course defence remains a key driver and primary driver for the industry. On the manufacturing side, again, that number of satellite supply, which we're seeing quite an extensive growth, obviously translates to manufacturing market revenues, and we're seeing quite a significant expansion in that area, 80% growth between those 10 decades. So obviously, as we move forward into this next decade, particularly for countries or commercial actors which may not have those contacts to national industrial actors, we're seeing the potential for a growing export market for satellite solutions, which obviously for the leading manufacturers, particularly those in North America and Europe, which may have been impacted by austerity in the last few years, obviously this presents opportunities for them to be able to market their products and to be able to develop new export business lines. To that regard, however, we are seeing two different types of export emerging. There's the low-cost export, which perhaps maybe to certain countries which are looking to build their Earth observation capabilities at an industrial level, for instance, such as through technology transfer. But on the other side, we see more of a so-called high-end procurement of countries such as the UAE, such as Peru, who are procuring high-precision systems to support immediate requirements, in this case, defence. So even on the export side, there's going to be challenges for the industry as to how they position themselves to be able to tap into these export opportunities. We did observe at Euroconsult that the market for commercial data did stabilise, and then indeed it did eventually decrease a little in 2013 before returning to growth this year. The short answer is that was predominantly an effect of the US defence spending. We saw a gradual ramp up of US defence spending over the 2006 to 2010 period. This then stabilised, which obviously had an impact on the wider industry, slowing growth. And then following austerity measures in the UK and the revisit on the enhanced view contracts, with the decision to continue the award of the contract to only Digital Globe, which of course in part forced the merger of the two companies. The amount of data being procured by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, it dropped, and that had an impact on the whole market, as of course the NGA is the largest significant, is the largest procurer of Earth observation data globally. Growth this year has come back to being 12%. It's mainly driven by non-US defence markets, which we're seeing growth above 12% and have been growing above 10% for the last 5 years. And we expect that to continue. At the same time, we're seeing the emergence of other application areas, such as in the location-based services arena, in market intelligence, and other application areas such as natural resources monitoring, support to infrastructure engineering, engineering projects, particularly in countries looking to support wider economic growth, continue to be big growth drivers. But really it was the US defense impact over the last 2 years, and now the growth we still consider to be defense, but coming from those known US markets, specifically those countries which may not have access to very high resolution data sets. And to that regard, companies such as Digital Globe, Airbus are having some success with direct receiving station style contracts, offering to international defense users secure encrypted data for which they can utilize for their own purposes. And we expect that business to continue to grow quite strongly. Emerging markets are very significant to the growth of the Earth observation industry, both upstream and downstream. If we look as of today, we have just under $9 billion worth of investment coming into civil Earth observation. That's the 9th year of continuous growth that we've witnessed in Earth observation investment, and we expect that to continue at least to around 2017, 2018, when we expect that the investment may plateau just over 10 billion. Obviously, though, during the course of the last few years, austerity has hit North America, some of the the European space agencies, also some of the national European agencies. So the air investment has been more incremental, but we've seen far stronger growth in the investment coming from countries such as China, such as India, and further emerging actors such as from Kazakhstan to Vietnam to Malaysia, and all this combined effort is overall pushing forward that investment. There are a lot of small countries which are investing in this technology, which may have more of a limited budget. I mean, today in a small sat environment using component-based systems such as those offered from SSTL, satellites can be developed relatively economically. And for those countries which want to take their first step into developing space-based capabilities, Earth observation presents that opportunity. It's a lot cheaper application in this regard to invest in when compared, for instance, to start initiating a space science program or developing even geo capabilities in satellite communication. Earth observation is a way to start this industrial process with the potential of developing more extensive programs later on. And we see this, for instance, in countries such as Nigeria, Algeria, South Korea, of course, as well, started off with technology transfer and now has a very diverse program. And we do expect other countries to follow that course. The change is clear. With a low capex model, they have the potential, of course, to price data very competitively. They also have the capability of launching a vast number of satellites in one go, which, of course, answers the question of temporal revisit, bringing that down into measured in terms of hours rather than days. There's still, of course, challenges. I mean, with small satellite technology, CubeSat technology, obviously the platform is less stable, which does put more pressure in the post-processing and on the ground station. But with post-processing techniques developing, so with the use of ground control points or through DEMs to bring the accuracy of the data into a suitable level of applicability, then obviously it has ranging application and usage. We don't necessarily expect it, for instance, to tap in fully to high precision defense markets because it's offering a very different type of data set. But under the high temporal resolution approach with satisfactory data, it has that potential to open up completely different market areas, such as in market intelligence, business intelligence, support to the financial communities, insurance communities, areas at the minute which aren't necessarily so well tapped into the Earth observation market, either because of the high price requirements or involvements, or simply because the temporal revisit is not at the point of which it is required by the end user. There is going to be further competition, that is for sure, and certainly some of those monitoring style applications for which some of these companies you just mentioned are involved in are going to see increasing competition in those areas. But as we see, companies such as Blackbridge, companies such as Deimos, now, of course, they're part of this environment between, with the respective acquisitions with EarthQuest and Planet Labs. they still bring the client base, they still bring the customers, they still bring the distribution, they still bring the product offerings. There's still some way to go from the concept of the launch of these constellations to really to properly impacting on these businesses. There's a few other steps to go yet, but yes, in the longer term we would expect to see competition to increase and potentially even to be somewhat disruptive in the market if the services can be demonstrated from the constellations at a cost point below of what we have now. In part, it's the new concepts which have been brought. A lower capex model is more attractive to investors, and of course interest rates now are also quite low to support that investment. You're right, we have seen unprecedented levels. We've had over $450 million come into the business in the course of the last couple of years, supporting 12 ventures for which we're following. There is a risk there, obviously, in terms of that investment that's coming in, that we may have a bubble if some of these concepts don't come to fruition. So I think it's important for the industry that some of these do develop, so we don't scare off future investments.